White Widow non-feminized and White Widow feminized, and the non-feminized always stands above the feminized. It's like one step more diluted, I find. Plus, I have so many genetics to work with, I really only have time for forward filial crosses. Maybe someday in the future, looking to, stabilize something in that regard, I might use it, but there's just too much else to play with in the meantime.
It really is. So now that we covered that subject, because there was a lot of people were emailing us, emailing a lot of
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, in no way is this any hate upon any of the people like our gentleman. I mean, these guys have been breeding for how many decades?
Yeah, they kind of did pave the road.
I mean, he paved the road. This is not. This is how we feel. And as a matter of fact, it's kind of a favor.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously, you're checking out our scene.
It's nice.
This is our scene. We don't film. And we grow big, badass plants, and we can drive around with 6 pounds in our car. Not fucking 5 grams like the cup.
And since we have a lot of breeders here, or aspiring breeders, and people here to try to obtain information about breeding, you have to understand that when it comes to feminized varieties, that when a plant hermaphrodites, that is basically a last resort in that plant's genetic code to repropagate itself. Doesn't mean it's the most, it's not the best way to repropagate genetics. So just because people are doing it, doesn't mean it's the right thing. I'm going to quote Kyle Cushman because he said, just because 1 million people are eating Big Macs doesn't mean it's the right thing. And so now I kind of want to get into a little bit of mechanics of breeding. A lot of people kind of want to know how you guys really select your females when you're breeding females and your males. So,
and your males.
What are your desirable characteristics in a female?
I've always, and it's kind of funny how it turned out. Since the day I started being a breeder, or a seed maker, I've always considered myself a seed maker, not a breeder. I'm not some special person. It's all been about flavor and resin. It's always been about increasing the flavor and the resin amounts of my varieties. It's always been about taking something that's good and making it fantastic. So that's really, really important. So what I really want to get into, just briefly, because I only have a few minutes, is the mechanics. So indicas, when you flower them, when you seed them, you want to put them in earlier. You want to use about a 6 to 5 day stagger on indicas. That means you want to put your female plants into flower before the male. On sativas, it can go out as far as 7, 8, 9, 10 days. As a breeder, you have to find this window. We actually want to be doing the pollination part of it around 21 to 29 days to get the most volume of seed. So I'm strictly talking about mechanics now, which is something people didn't teach me.
But it's very important.
It's very important. If you do it wrong, you get 500 seeds. If you do it right, you get 6,000 seeds. So knowing these numbers and understanding that the stagger is something that's unnatural. It's not something nature would do. That is really important, I think, for everyone to know.
Thank you.
It's actually, it's always a little hard to predict because it's also weather influenced as well. In the winter time, our males do take longer to produce the pollen, and in the summertime, they can be quite quick.
Alrighty. Ringo, how do you select your females?
By smell, taste, the way it looks, the way it's been performing over years. Lately, in the last 4 years, I've been using science too. And I give them cuts and they test them out and tell me if I got CBDs or THCs. It's been really cool. So it's an added addition to what I've been doing my whole life anyway, The males, I've always walked up to the males at 8 and 9 notes and you can scrape the stem and you can smell the bouquet on it. So if you're satisfied with that bouquet right then at that second, that's your male you're using. Plus the way it grows and looks, It's got the males, I go by the bouquet and the structure. Female, same way. You just learn to do it. You just see it. You grab those ones you want to work with. And now we got science, and it even makes it quicker and easier to stabilize the strain. It's unreal. It's really cool.
Right on. Thank you, Ringo.
Yeah, my turn. My primary method of judging cannabis, like I said, is by the effect of the finished product, by the properly harvested, cured, finished product. Everything else, flavor, aroma, structure, growing structure, flowering time, those things are secondary considerations. As long as it passes that test, that it satisfies me. All right. Now, say you have two things that the finished effect is very similar, but one is a bit bigger, it has more flavor. Well, of course, then we'll choose that one. But it has to pass that test of how it makes me feel afterwards. Another aspect I think is important, and part of the reason why certain things are popular has to do with this concept of tolerance threshold or burnout. Certain heavy-hitting indicas, 2-3 times I try it, that's it. Been there, done that, and it's nothing but boring. My blueberry, I've been smoking for over 30 years. It takes about half as much for me to get the same effect now as it did back when, and that's part genetic and it's part environmental, but something to take into consideration, a nice long shelf life. That way you can get a good cure to it as well. Right now, my favorite smoke is my Vanna Luna, cured for 2.5 to 3.5 years in glass.
Wow.
Yeah, and that just the chlorophyll breaks down, the calyxes start to go golden, it mellows out somewhat, the flavors change, the trichomes actually go more amber, different colors come to them. And as far as the male goes, I have to say, give you a disclaimer, as far as I'm concerned, there is no shortcut to pollinating a female, harvesting those seeds, curing those seeds, and growing them out, and seeing what you end up with. There's a few shortcuts to rubbing the stem. Resinous males, also smoking males. Volcano vaporizer helps with that, but you definitely want to be at a low tolerance threshold. You want to be at your baseline state when you're testing the males smoking.
Thanks, Ringo. Thanks for DJ Short. I said Ringo because we also want to know how you guys, what do you do to select your males? Because DJ Short brought something up very important, and it's the importance of selecting that right male. And it's just as important, every breeder knows it's just as important as picking your female, because your stud is the most prized possession in your stable. Can you tell us what you look for?
Yeah, I'd let women smoke the males when I dry them out, and they actually get high on it.
Really?
Yep. 90% of them will get blaze on it, and you're like, I won't get high on it at all, but I'll give it to my girlfriend, Kat, and she'll get blaze on it. So I know that's a good one to use, But I like using the smell and the way it looks and everything. That's the way I've always done it, And it seems to always work.
So you just do it by the nose, you're not looking at,
the nose and the way it looks and everything,
Okay.
Definitely. Right now, I'd wait till the male pollen sacs are just starting to show, and I'll take that whole top off and send it to the lab and see what it's putting out. And you believe they get some good results that way. I'm seeing 16 to 18% CBDs and THCs.
So when you take it to a lab, you're looking for those CBD and THC precursors. Is there anything else you're looking for when you're submitting male or female cuttings to a lab before you begin breeding with them?
No, pretty much. That's it.
And the TGA crew, what do you guys look for? We know that you guys both share, obviously you guys share the same philosophy on selecting males, but can you tell the audience about what exactly you look for?
My answer is pretty simple. I learned to pick males from DJ Short. My only caveat would be test. Have 500 people grow that sibling strain out. And if 500 people tell you that it is a really good strain, you can move forward knowing it is a really good strain.
All right. So we're looking at, we just talked about the desirable characteristics. People also need to understand what are the undesirable characteristics. What do you avoid when you're selecting a female or a male? Because this is a common pitfall a lot of breeders make, or aspiring breeders make, because they really don't know how to, discernibly select the best possible males and females. And part of that is understanding what the plant you don't want looks like. So let us know, man, what do you guys avoid, man? What do you swerve out, 4 lanes over to avoid, man? Like
hemp vigor. I mean, the drug trait does not lie in the hemp plant. So plants that have giant stalks that are producing tons of cellulose, tons of fiber, are not always the ones that you want to breed with. A lot of times, unfortunately, in our culture, some of these strains in our culture have become quite famous. And I'm going to pick on one, Big Bud. Oh my God, it's crap. But it's giant. It yields very well.
No resin, no.
But it's too hemp dominant, in my opinion. And the reason it's so big, the reason it's so big and strong is because they chose vigorous plants to breed with, to make a big bud. that doesn't mean it's a good bug.
So basically, you're saying that vigor doesn't translate into quality smoke.
In nature, if we left this planet right now, within 1,000 years, cannabis would revert back to a non-drug bearing trait. The first males out of the gate are always hemp dominant. We have to choose the not runts and not mutants, but the slower to bud males. Right in the middle. This is where the drug trait lies. There's a very big difference between a hemp dominant plant and a plant that produces myrcium, limonene, and all these terpenes that we're chasing.
Right on.
We've actually taken our males far enough into flowers so we can see the resin growing on pollen sacs.
So you're also doing terpene analysis on your males as well.
Every strain we do now, we do a 3-panel terpene test. I've learned so much in the last 6 months. I didn't even know that the terpene that I loved is myrcium. That's what it's called.
And which terpene is that? What does that smell like? Can you tell the audience?
Grapes.
Grapes?
Yeah.
And our Doctor Who actually is the one that's tested highest in that.
Okay. And Ringo, what are some of the undesirable characteristics you avoid?
Growing fast, not growing at all. You walk into, you start 50 seeds and you can go look at all the seeds growing and go, this is lame before they're this tall. If they're not popping out and looking the same uniformly as all, I just get rid of them right there.
Okay.
I don't even wait, And if they don't grow and they perform and they stall at all, pretty much see you buy.
And DJ Short.
Sure. One disclaimer to start with, and that's really, it's a matter of personal preference for what you want to end up with, all right? One of the things I avoid is a term I use called bland potency. Another term I'll use would be stupefaction. I like clear-headedness, all right? But some people might not, especially people trying to regulate, say, opiate intake. They want a heavy hitting, something that's really red-eye and couch lock, which is not my preference. I like clear-headedness, so those things that are, frighteningly potent, I tend to shy away from.
Okay. So, a lot of people want to know, because everybody does this differently. How many generations do you breed a strain until you either release it or you're comfortable with calling it your own?
Every strain is different. Vortex was created simply one strain times another. And no one in the world would argue that's not one for creation. Almost everyone.
It's actually one of our oldest.
That's one of our oldest. So sometimes the strain just comes out really well. But sometimes you have to spend years. To create Jack the Ripper, it took me 13 years.
Wow.
So we're talking about throwing away tens of thousands of seeds that you created, because you create seeds and you create a strain and you enter it into the gene pool, into the testing, and then when you find out it's not what you wanted it to be, your only choice is to start over. And when I'm talking about starting over, I'm talking about starting the project over. Taking the female that you had chosen and looking for a completely different male to outcross to. And to create Jack the Ripper, we had to go through that 4 times. So we're talking periods of 2 to 2.5 years to create a strain. Okay? So the final outcome took around 13 years.
So, Ringo, I've actually had a couple of buddies of mine and fans of yours and mine come to me and say, I want to know how Ringo selects the strains, because you have this Ringo OG that you've been working on for 9 to 10 years. And you've been working on it for such a long time. When do you release a strain? Do you ever release any F1s, or do you make sure it's stable?
Totally. I mainly do F1s when I'm giving them to the public. But I've thrown them out, previously. What I've been doing is really cool lately is I have a library, a clone library, and I save all my pollen, so I'm able to recreate whatever I need whenever I need it. So if I'm low on a strain, I'll start up a new, start a bunch of these strains, or I'll pull out the clones of this, and I'll save the pollen and put it on there and make that strain.
It's all the damn good weed that's in California right now.
Yeah, we're lucky. We are very lucky to live in this time, in this point. Thank you, universe.
Amen.